Live streaming is on.
Hello, good morning and good evening, everyone, from wherever you come from around the world. We're very excited to be here for another World From Here on a Friday, and we always look forward to this. I know weeks just seem to scream by, and I'm joined here by Tim Vasco, who's the Chief Executive Officer and founder of BlockSearch Blockchain.
Morning, Dan. How are you?
Doing great, thanks.
Friday morning live.
Friday morning live, woohoo! And we've got Danielle Mincy, who's the president and co-founder of Fusion Funder, which is doing some amazing things in the tokenized space. Good evening to you, coming live from Italy, Danielle.
Hey, Dan and Tim. Always a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
Danielle, I like the hoodie. I like the hoodie look. It's very Zuckerberg-ish. Yeah, you're inspired.
I'm inspired. So it's today. It's a great day. So we get a very, very good conversation. So about tokenized business model. I think sooner, I don't know, probably in a few weeks from now, we're gonna announce something really, really interesting for what we're doing and what
no spoiler alerts. No spoiler alerts.
Yeah. So today, everybody, we're here. Last week, we introduced kind of the cracks of the centralized foundation. And so this is part 2 of the House of Cards, Cloudopoly versus private cloud. And really, this is important for every business to listen to, because if you're on centralized platforms, it's something that you want to move away from. You're paying too much, and you have too much at risk and exposed. So Tim, we already saw this week, we mentioned this, we've been talking about it for quite some time. We saw it this week with Salesforce.com. They were down for an entire day. Yeah.
With who? Who was that?
I don't know. They have some large building that people are not annoyed by in San Francisco. But anyway, they were down for an entire day, and people couldn't use their service. And it just goes to another foundational crack in the centralized solutions. And also, I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
These guys?
Yeah, those guys.
Okay, yeah, I Googled them. I'd never heard of them before.
Yeah. And we keep hearing about these DNS issues, whether it's ransomware attacks and all kinds of things.
It's interesting because that DNS thing is another issue. I love this headline. Salesforce fell over so hard today it took out its own server status page. And it's brutal. I mean, I feel bad for these guys because it is absolutely brutal when these things happen, but it does show like what the cracks in the system are and how vulnerable you are when somebody else holds your whole system and your whole data. Like Salesforce didn't just go down, Dan. Yeah. Everybody using Salesforce went down. Everybody. So going back to it, who holds your data?
I know. Their data was hostage for an entire day. They couldn't access it or use it.
Your business is down. They go down, your business is down.
Right. And we even saw that with last week with the Colonial Pipeline, the last couple of weeks. Another a ransomware attack, and former DHS cyber official Christopher Krebs this past week testified to Congress saying that we have a global digital pandemic, and ransomware is an emergency, and it's a digital dumpster fire. That's just another component of centralization and being, exposed.
Exactly, and it is a pandemic because when all of your data and all of your tools and everything are in one place, that one place is going to get hit. It's very difficult. I will say this. It's incredibly difficult to take these centralized, monopolistic kind of models and break them into distributed apps. And it's the big promise of blockchain. Very, very difficult to do. It's incredibly technically difficult to do. But that's what we're here to talk about at BlockSearch and the World From Here is how you start that migration. It's not an overnight thing. We've been at this, as anybody knows, for over 2 million man hours or person hours, sorry,
Right.
and a decade building out these systems to enable this. But yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, but it's critical, right?
It is. It is. And Daniele, tell us
Can I
about
add the
decentralized.
Can I add
Yes.
the story?
Yeah.
So
Please. I love your stories.
I was trying to explain exactly the same thing to someone that doesn't have an exact understanding of what blockchain is, but they understand what Google, Salesforce is. And I was giving this analogy. So, and I asked him, "Do you have a car?" And he said, "Yes." "How much you use your car in a year?" And he said, "Well, I don't have a clue. Probably 1 hour per day." Okay, 1 hour per day. It means it's 365 hours a year, which is approximately 15 days a year.
Right.
So you use your car 15 days in a year. So your car loses $10,000, euro, whatever, at least in value every year, plus maintenance costs and all the others. But to keep it simple, 10,000 divided 15 is 650 euro, dollars, whatever. Your car costs you $650 a day to use 1 hour.
Right.
per day. Why don't you imagine you have a solution where you can get whatever car you want at any time, at any point in time, for a fraction of the cost? Don't you think this model is much better? I would do it immediately.
Or how about this? You own your car,
Yeah,
but you let everybody else use it,
correct.
and you get rewarded for that. So your $650 a day goes down to $6 a day, or you even make money.
Right. This is what we're doing.
That's exactly what we're doing. I love that analogy.
That's
and it's
a great
like,
analogy.
this happens to me all the time. I've got, I think, 2 or 3 computers authorized on Adobe, right? But every time I hit that second computer, even if nobody's using it, if they've turned their computer off, I log in, it kicks me out. I have to log back in again, even though I'm paying for 24/7 license on Adobe.
Yeah.
I mean, really, is that good customer? Let's start there. Is that good customer service? Like I have to spend my time, and so do other people in the organization, for licenses we've already paid for. We're paying for it every month, but you kick us out and we have to go back in. Can't you do something better, like monitor my use? Charge me more if I'm using it more. Great. But charge me less if I'm using it less.
Well, definitely with that same analogy with software, if you're paying whether you use it or not, and you have 24 hours in a day, we know most people don't work 24 hours a day. And even if you worked 8 hours on that software, that's still a third of the time you're paying for 100% of the time. And you're not using it even a third of the time. It's more like less than a half of that.
25%, Dan. We did the analysis.
Yeah,
25% of the time. So your car analogy is exactly the
car is worse.
Exactly.
Car is worse because it's 5%.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why we say business is digital and box search is business. Let's talk about things that actually make business sense for the next iteration of technology, guys. I mean, that's really what we're about here. So, we say this, and we started this last week talking about, and we're not the only ones that noticed this. The World Bank back in 2019, pre-pandemic, started talking about digital business indicators, what are measured under digital business, So there's tons of research out here. This isn't new. It's been coming. The COVID pandemic makes it that much more obvious and that much more relevant. We talked about this centralized business models, house of cards. Sorry, Salesforce, you're one of those guys going flying off the side. There's cracks in the system and ransomware. There's just tons and tons of cracks in the system. It's really hard to manage this. And so, there are businesses that are targeting, like the hacking groups, targeting to knock these centralized business models down. And, it's not good. Nobody likes it. Then you've got the litigation side of it. Like we talked about a little bit last week, Epic Games versus the Apple trial that started on May 3rd, the actual deliberations, and looking at the 30% that Apple takes. And as the economist said, they might win the war, but they're going to lose a regulatory battle. The regulatory war has begun for things like what you just mentioned, Dan, the conversation in Congress about what's antitrust, how should we regulate these big, powerful entities, and so forth and so on. So all of that was then. Then we started talking about this idea of the rake, the margin, the middleman. We talk about that. And this big margin that's built in, that the walls around this centralization, all these business models were built for that. So looking at a more logical way, as Daniele just used in his car example, as we just talked about with software, a more logical way to get the rake, the margin in there. There needs to be profit. There needs to be margins. It's just a matter of who gets to share in those and how are these business models built, right, Daniele? And I think that's really the big change, is how are we going to redefine these business models and really make things that have become critical, important, from everything from running a business to capital creation. How are you going to do that more efficiently? We just talked about that this morning.
Yeah, I mean, this is unstoppable. I mean, it's unstoppable at any level. It's unstoppable in finance. It's unstoppable in technology. It's unstoppable also in commodity markets. It's going to come. So if you think about what we're doing on the SaaS, so on the tech side, and I mean, I just given the analogy, not by chance, on the car industry, because car, it's kind of a still, thanks to Tesla, is getting to much more tech-like business. And I expect more and more kind of decentralized business model, because people paying an insane amount of money for something they don't use. And the moment they start realizing that they're using money because they pay a lot of money for capital, which is not into use, and they have better alternatives, which is DeFi and all the rest, this process is going to change dramatically how people spend money and use goods.
Exactly. And you know what? We need to fix it for your associate there, because that's the world that they're growing up in. So he needs to have a better model, right?
Definitely. We do it for them.
That's what we're about here at BlockSearch, is building a better model for the future generations. Right there. We've got the future generations. Look.
And they understand, they believe, they understand much better than we do. So they need
exactly.
I love it, Daniele.
Exactly. I miss those days.
Me too. That's what this whole virtual is. It's kind of cool.
It is very cool. It is very cool.
She's concerned for the dinner. She said everything is
for dinner. Okay, we got to get through this so Daniele can go have dinner with the family. So this is the multi-trillion-dollar question, and the multi-trillion-dollar question is: are you going to have an ace in the hole, or are you going to be the Joker? And let's look at the guys who have had an ace in the hole for quite a while. The first guys that had an ace in the hole, Amazon leads the cloud market. It's amazing. It was an amazing business model. Hats off to Mr. Bezos, who pulled that off. The reality is, number two, Microsoft Azure should have been number one. This in 2011, I was in a meeting. Steve Ballmer was there, former CEO of Microsoft, and he says, the difference between us is they're a bookstore, we're a software company. So good for the bookstore. They did a pretty good job of becoming a software company. And I think I love that story, because these are all like the big players in technology. Look at this: IBM 5%, Google 9%, Azure 20%. There is no reason, honestly, that Amazon should have been 32% if they were a bookstore. What they were was a different business model. They were a business model based on technology. They are the definition of success as a digital business, showing that because they owned the platform, they became the largest player of the platform and then able to provide it to others. There is no better example on the planet than the wealthiest man in the world, who's actually, I just heard it, building a $500 million super yacht. So it works, I guess. And there's no other business model on the planet that is a better example of what a platform strategy is and how it works out. And what happens? You get to be the leader in an oligopoly. So our Cloudopoly today kind of looks like this. If you look at this chart, there's the top four, and there's the Cloudopoly model that we have today. This is a centralized model. I think they're all brilliant business models. They all had their day. Obviously, they had their day.
Yeah, but all these model, beside, there are plenty of things which are in common, obviously. But there is just one, there is even one more, which is essentially all of them try to become the predator of the ecosystem they are building. So this means it's a kind of zero-sum game. The more money they make, and the less money someone else is making, it typically are the people which are involved in the supply chain into there, because all of them have dematerialized all the supply chain into their advantage. And the people sitting in between have kind of been eaten by these models.
That's right. Yeah. And so when to that end, what we end up with now is this kind of an evolution, where we started out with Ethereum and now version 2.0 coming out. Then in 2018, Uniswap started, and this last fall, 2020, really gained traction. Now it's just fully on fire, as you point out, Daniele, unstoppable. And what's Blockcerts about? These were about building infrastructure for the formula, and I'll call that the financial formula of the business model. And Blockcerts has always been about decentralizing SaaS, decentralizing cloud, and seeing this kind of a blockchain, DeFi, operational technology, and DApps come into play. This is where we fit. We are a functional operation that allows these clouds, every organization, to have their own cloud. So let's talk about what that means. Amazon had all those servers to run their business. They had all of this infrastructure. And what Bezos did is he's thinking, you know what? I got all of this stuff. I've got the automobile. I'm using it 1 day, 1 hour a day. Why don't I let other people use it? That's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. Why don't I let other people use it? Well, I'm not using it. And 60% of Amazon's profit comes from 10% of their revenues. It's a highly profitable model. Highly profitable. They sell a lot more goods and services and fulfillment and all of that. Tons more revenue-wise. But profit-wise, all those rewards that we talk about, and that's why we see rewards over here in Uniswap, that's technology. The cost of technology is an inverse model in business. And that's why these big companies have been able to do so much and get so much capacity and so much profit out of it, because you have the law in economics. There's the law of increasing or diminishing returns. There's the law of diminishing returns. And in technologies, there's the law of increasing returns.
Right. But there is a third dimension, which is the incentives. Because if I take Amazon, and we can take all the others, there's no real incentive model in place. So you just have, if you are a founder, so you have a marketplace, you are a merchant, sorry, and you wanna sell your product and goods via Amazon, then you have to believe it's going to work. You have to pay for your inventory, for your supply, for your marketing. You have to put this capital up front, and eventually you're gonna sell at the fraction of what you used to sell before in the previous retail distribution channel. What this model is introducing is an incentive system. So this means I'm talking about now DeFi, Uniswap. So as long as you are part of the community and you are actively engaged into the protocol, into the technology, you are participating to the growth
Exactly.
of the ecosystem, then you're being rewarded for your level of participation. And this is something it did not exist before 2020.
Exactly. And that kind of goes back to now what we're talking about here, which is instead of a Cloudopoly, we're talking about cloud owner options. Because you become a cloud owner, you become the driver, and however you play the game and move your DApp pieces around that board, you now have a chance or your get out of jail free card, which is what we're providing with the BlockCert platform and the vCert token. This is how you can stop jailing yourself to these centralized business models and use these new tools to build a better business model. Now, it benefits everybody. You just have to think differently. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not a kind of game where it's winner take all and there's always these massive losers on the other end. It's a collaborative game. It's a game of loyalty and rewards. You know what? You know who learned that? The airline industry, the hotel industry. When they were big, they gave you rewards. Come back to my hotel. I'll give you a free night. Get on my airplane and do it enough, you get to sit in first class. You know, they rewarded their customers. When was the last time you got a reward from a software company?
Yeah. How about
ever?
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, and
Right?
Tim, that's because you're not an owner. And this, what you're talking about is fractionalized ownership, and you get rewards from being an owner.
That's
versus
right.
a renter. There aren't many rewards being a renter.
That's right. So what we talk about when we talk about decentralized is this idea of a chance to get out of jail free. And I love this. This is from one of the original Monopoly games. I think it was 26. And this card may be kept until needed or traded. Does that sound like a token to you?
That does.
This card may be stored until needed or traded.
Yeah.
Think about that.
It's exactly the same.
They figured it out with this game. They figured out tokens with this game after the Great Depression. I think it was 1946, actually. But anyway, the point is that's the model of the idea of taking DApps and building your brilliant business model in a decentralized fashion. And what are entrepreneurs? That's why we call this, I like to call this the entrepreneur's cloud, because entrepreneurial thinking is about how do I take all of my properties, my individuals, and get that rent and be able to build my value propositions. And that's what you're seeing with things like a piece of digital art, $70 million. That's just a brilliant use of two things: artistic talent, an auction engine called Christie's, because that's who did it, and DeFi. That was a new business model. Yes, it's an amazing sum of money, but it was a completely new business model. Thought out of the box. And, you know, hats off to showing the world how it's done. Like, boom, you showed it.
And we're looking at Beeple now, you know, 69 million auction. But I'm in touch with so many artists at the moment. They are selling, you know, piece of paper, you know, digitized at $800, $500. And they are telling me I was never able to sell anything at $20. Exactly. And I'm selling at $800 and I have a living for it. So
versus sit on a street corner with a mug in your hand trying.
Daniele, you're from Florence. This is nothing like, this is the Medici version too. Right?
The Renaissance.
It is the Renaissance.
The Renaissance. It is a Renaissance. And that's what's so exciting to me. And yesterday, Dan and I, we were doing a big discussion about this reinvention of of identity, this reinvention. We started talking about this IP rights and things. I think I did a keynote to all these IP attorneys, Supreme Court justices in 2018 about this exact same thing. That's why I'm so excited about what's happening now, because it is about knowing your people, knowing who the people are, knowing the product. That's Beeple's art. It's him. It's actually his art. The process of selling it, the payment, and the protocol. We know all of those things now, and all of those things are brought together. That's what blockchain enables. That's what smart contracts enable. That's what DeFi enables. But guess what? It's pretty geeky. It's pretty complex. It took a lot of time. It takes time. I learn something new about this industry every day. Sometimes I'm talking to Daniele and he's like, so do you get it? I'm like, no, I don't get it.
we are, you know what? And I give you another analogy. And today is the analogies day. Talking to a friend of mine, and then I was asking him, do you prefer a dime a day that doubles every day, or you prefer 31 days, or you prefer $1 million now? They say, right. $1 million. Yeah. You know that a dime per day that doubles every day, it's 10.7 million after 31 days?
Right.
They say it's not possible. That's the compounding effect of technology that people struggle to understand. So 1 dime, 2 dimes, 4 dimes, 8 dimes seems to be still, little. But after a certain point, there is a kind of inflection point, and there is a massive growth. And this is exactly where we are right now. So people start seeing, but it's not yet entirely in the pocket of anybody.
Exactly.
Well, in the past, Tim, a lot of that was in the hands of the banks and the middlemen. That's where all the profits were. And DeFi, allowing people to be players in this game, allows a whole different model.
What Walter Bagot wrote, and I think this is in the 1800s, there's a great book out there called The Merchant Bankers, an old book. And this quote, I've always loved this, is, we must not let daylight in upon the magic. Mm-hmm. So these models were figured out centuries ago by the brilliant bankers, merchant bankers, and the foundations of the financial system. Centuries and centuries ago, these models were created. What's happened is they have become, daylight is now in upon the magic.
Yes.
There is still a lot of magic going on. Believe me, I spend 10 hours, 12 hours a day working on the magic and the coding. I know brilliant coders out there that are doing token engineering. They're doing tokenomics. They're doing trading bots. It's interesting and brilliant and difficult work to do. But look at these industries that it's reshaping. The collaboration industry. You don't no longer have to use a centralized instant messaging system to do your collaboration. Identity. What is new identity? Document signing. Killer app that I love what we've built to decentralize that and prove signing capability, file management, storage, shopping carts, payments, banking, tracking, security. All those things are the magic, right? Let some daylight in. Let the users control their private cloud for costs and payments through SaaS tools with complete and equal access. And that is what we call the secure virtual space. I wrote this and came up with that name in 2010. So I'm embarrassed to say, yes, it's been a very long road, and this was patented in 2015. The patent was granted, and that's what these little cubes and deals are about. Now, how you put that Rubik's Cube together of your business is the magic. That's the magic, and it should be the magic for the business models that are built, right? But I'm going to say it's not easy. It's complex. There's a huge challenge to figuring all of this stuff out. So decloud de-SaaS, decentralized, DeFi, as Daniele says, is unstoppable, absolutely unstoppable. And that's what we're going to focus on and show people how to do starting next week, right, Dan?
Starting next week, absolutely.
Starting next week.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Starting next week, we actually go to our pre-launch stage. We've been out there for a long time. We've built the business models. They're there. The tech is there. We've been working to make it more and more accessible, drive it down to be less costly for us to do, less costly for others to adopt. But it's there. It's been operating. We've stabilized. We've done some very cool stuff. And I'm super excited about what we're going to release next week in this. Should I do a little quick and dirty?
Yeah, a little quick and dirty.
Releasing?
Yeah, because it's a first.
We are releasing the
wallets.
revolution, of what wallets really should be and how you have your wallet really in your back pocket without giving it to somebody else. We're releasing how you should be authenticated and control your own data and how that's all going to happen. We're releasing the security that gives you, I love that picture, the Zen feeling of I'm cool. Like, I don't care if those guys go down, I'm still in business. I told our designer, I said, you nailed it. I love that because that's what it feels like when you have your model. We're releasing the security of being a buyer or a seller and being able to do that in a single place. And we are doing that so that everybody can actually own their own environment, not only their cloud, but their identity, their data, their control over what we talked about. Business is digital and Blocksearch is business. That's what we're about. We've done tons of work to get those kinds of simple tools, because this will look, if we're right, this will look pretty simple. Took a lot of work to make it simple.
It's hard to do simple.
It's hard to do simple. So that's the cliffhanger this week, Dan. We had the technical glitch cliffhanger last week, so that's our cliffhanger this week.
Well, I was calling conspiracy theory because we were talking about centralized and how bad centralized is, and all of a sudden all of a sudden YouTube jumped, clicked us off there a bit.
Yeah.
So next week, very, very exciting. We're introducing our wallet. And the Be Certain wallet has revolutionary things that no other wallet has. And we're very excited about that. And I know, Tim, you've had many sleepless nights, and the whole team has. So
yeah, and our Be Cert token, that is the vehicle, the piece of software that actually enables any owner of that Be Cert token to actually own a cloud. I mean, it doesn't matter how small your piece is, right? It's that you have that piece of technology, because listen, everything, I was using this analogy the other day with somebody. I said the famous thing about HP, Hewlett Packard, who make great computers, huge company, fantastic software, hardware and models. I'm on one right now, so the little shout out to HP, great technology. Started on the back of a napkin.
Mm-hmm.
So today's back of the napkin to start your business, right, Daniele, is a token. And Daniele's going to talk about that. No spoiler alerts for your thunder, but he's going to talk about how you take the digital napkin and make a business, a brilliant business case that benefits everybody. Like, brilliant.
Yeah, that's the bridge between web. We call centralized model, centralized platform, but essentially what we're talking about here is a transition from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, okay, which is the decentralized version of web, which will also bring us to the metaverse, and in one of the next work from here, we also bridge what the metaverse are and how do we fit into it. But essentially, the tokens will enable truly community engagement and to build business models that are, number one, sustainable, and number two, reward people that contribute to the growth of that business model. This today in Web 2.0 or in the economy 2.0, unfortunately, does not exist.
Exactly. So
Tim, I just got something in the mail I had to share, but we were talking about this the other day. It's REI.
yes,
So it's all about being a community and being a community member and getting something back because you're a part of that community.
exactly.
You know,
And you know, outdoor enthusiasts, that's what we do as a society, maybe even more now so than ever, is
right.
we congregate digitally around things that are of interest to us. Well, if we're doing that, don't you think customers and clients and vendors and everything do the same thing? Of course they do. Absolutely they do. So why not reward the people who are part of your business? Why not engage them in your business, make them more interested, and you get engaged in theirs? That's what great collaboration, great friendships even are built on, right?
Right.
So why wouldn't we do that? And you know, it's that it always gets back to that thing about who is it as Daniele said, a zero-sum game? Of course not. Like we're all in this together. And so this idea of opening that structure of your organization, the idea of creating collaborative, decentralized organizations, or like I talked about the DAO, what the DAO was trying to do in 2016 is really logical when you think about it. It makes complete sense. And some microcosm businesses, as you just pointed out, Dan, have existed for a very long time, built their foundation around that, REI being one of them, another brilliant business. In Canada, it's MEC, Mountain Equipment Co-op.
Yeah, yeah.
But today, I think, so 2021, I built a company back in 2017, early 2018 in Singapore that essentially was a copy of TikTok with a reward mechanism that was kind of, you know, incentivizes people to join the community and to do something. But at that time, DeFi was not there. And blockchain was not so mature as it is today to have an effective reward technology-driven program in place to really incentivize people and the community to join. Because, you know, when you're a founder, typically the question you're asking yourself is, okay, I need to have money, I need to spend money. So typically VC or early stage investors come, give capital, and this capital is being burned, more or less. And what is being left to the community that helps that business to grow? Nothing. Out of this money, nothing of nothing. So if you think about, thanks to what we just explained at a high level, if we have a technology that helps both founders and community to grow together and being incentivized, I think that would be a pretty cool model that it did not exist before 2020.
Exactly.
Well, even for crypto, you know, people buy crypto hoping it goes up, but there's no real benefit in the community for
there's no GDP contribution.
That's right.
GDP contribution is a product and goods. So how you contribute to the growth of GDP, you have to produce something. Because if you stake your money, for example, you buy Bitcoin, not financial advice, but let's say you buy Bitcoin and you hold it, your contribution to the GDP is zero. As long as you don't spend, you don't contribute, okay? But if you keep this money and you put into action to build a business, then you contribute to the growth of the country.
And I think this idea of social responsibility also, you know, extends into one of the questions I got this week from one of my daughters was, well, what's the carbon footprint of your cloud? And I'm like, it's actually brilliant, because in mining on the Bitcoin, for example, we all know the power consumption, and there was a lot of press on Bitcoin and Ethereum power consumption. But when you're doing this with transactions, the computers and the devices we have are already on. We're already running our world with this. We can mine and create the blocks and the authenticity and the transactions on this distributed cloud by coming together using what we already have. We don't need to build big server farms. Guess what? We all have that capacity. And we all have the capacity, therefore, to win those rewards of some of that compute power. So as we use it, we contribute both to the economy, we contribute to lowering the carbon footprint, we contribute to innovation around the world, we contribute to our ownership and identity and security. It really makes sense. It's really complete logic when you think about it. This is where the world from here should go. It should have gone here before this. Just so happens we're all digital now, and this is our virtual reality. So with that, I would like to say that the game is afoot. So it's not exactly easy, and you have to be a bit of a chess player, and you have to be a bit of a Sherlock Holmes to figure this out. And I'm not talking about the technology. We've done that at BlockSearch. We've done that for these kinds of business models. But to actually look at how you're going to strategically build your business model and the future and the world from here, the game's definitely afoot. So with that, Dan, I think we're done for the day. We are under an hour, so
that's awesome. We are done for the day, but join our conversation on Telegram. We've got some amazing people, individuals from prior FDIC to crypto experts and business experts, and great conversation going on.
All those pilots who deliver your packages all over the world.
That's right. We have a number of pilots in there, and so join us at BlockSearch on Telegram, because that conversation is going 24/7, and I just love to see what's going on there, and I learn a lot from it almost daily, because there's just so much happening there. And then also join our community. Go to token.blocksearch.com, and you'll be rewarded by doing so with incredible suite of solutions, and this technology that is changing the centralized footprint.
Exactly. And if you like what we're doing, click on subscribe, or the thumbs up below, and subscribe. We're going to be back next week with some really exciting stuff about how we actually are taking the next version of the platform for cloud power to the people. So excited about that. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and business is digital. So get digital, and BlockSearch is business. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.